Overnight, the global picture is being driven by conflict risk in the Middle East, spillovers into energy and trade, and growing concern about how fast military technology, including AI-enabled systems, is changing the battlefield. In the Iran conflict, Iran's new supreme leader, Mojtaba Khamenei, has vowed to keep the Strait of Hormuz shut, framing it as leverage and warning attacks on Gulf countries will continue, according to SBS. European governments are now trying to reopen safe passage. The Financial Times reports France and Italy have opened talks with Iran aimed at securing Hormuz transit and restarting energy shipments. The same paper says Iran's fight back has surprised the U.S., hitting major targets around the Gulf despite constraints, though the pace of Iranian firing may be waning. ABC reports U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has questioned Khamenei's ability to lead, claiming he is wounded and likely disfigured after nearly 2 weeks of U.S. and Israeli attacks. Separately, the BBC reports a U.S. refueling aircraft crashed in western Iraq, killing all 6 crew members. In Lebanon, Al Jazeera reports Israel has destroyed a bridge and is threatening Gaza-scale devastation, with hundreds reported killed since early March as strikes expand to more Beirut neighborhoods. In the U.S., SBS and the BBC report a suspect was shot dead after ramming a truck through a synagogue in Michigan. Authorities are treating it as a targeted act of violence against the Jewish community. On the global economy, energy is the immediate transmission channel. Ukraine and EU allies are criticizing a U.S. decision to roll back Russia oil sanctions, warning it could prolong the war and add to energy price pressure, according to the BBC and Al Jazeera. The Financial Times also reports President Trump insists the U.S. can fight forever despite rapid depletion of munitions, underscoring the strain prolonged conflict can place on industrial capacity and supply chains. On artificial intelligence and the technological revolution, the Financial Times highlights rising perils of AI in warfare and argues limits on lethal autonomous weapons systems are becoming urgent. The key development here is that AI is no longer a future capability discussion. It is increasingly central to operational advantage, escalation risk, and accountability in conflict. Turning to Australia, the Middle East war is now directly affecting the Australian public service footprint overseas. SBS reports non-essential Australian government staff have been told to leave Israel and the UAE, and officials have also been pulled from Lebanon, reflecting a deteriorating security environment and heightened duty of care settings. On the Australian economy, The Conversation reports China's ban on fuel exports is raising concerns for aviation fuel supply, with potential impacts including higher airfares, fuel surcharges, flight reductions and, in a severe scenario, rationing. The same outlet also notes farmers' diesel purchasing needs are critical to maintaining food security, pointing to broader sensitivity around fuel availability and price. In corporate and consumer policy news, SBS reports Qantas has agreed to a $105 million settlement over COVID-19 flight credits, with no admission of liability and federal court approval still required. This is a material development for consumer remediation and airline balance sheet risk. In Australian politics, The Guardian reports Matt Canavan has emerged as leader of the Nationals, with analysis focused on whether he has a strategy to counter One Nation and what that means for coalition positioning ahead of key electoral contests. Finally, locally, ABC reports thousands attended a vigil at Mernda railway station for Aidan Becker, 22, who died while trying to protect a teenage boy, with his mother speaking publicly about the family's grief. That's the latest on the major developments shaping today's risk, economic, technology and policy agenda.